This week, back by genuinely popular demand from last series, we're going to bring you another quick-fire episode. And nothing if not topical, we're going to cover a sub-collection of Jono's sublime sketches that feature or focus cars and driving. Jono, do you want to kick things off for us?
I'd love to. The one I wanted to kick off with was something called Marchetti's Constant. It's one of my favourite sketches, actually, and it's just such a cool thing. I think such a really interesting observation, which is basically that as we managed to travel faster and faster, so by that I mean we went from, we used to walk everywhere to eventually, we had horses and then trains and subways and cars. The constant is that we maintained our average travel time of about an hour's travel a day, no matter what that is. And so what that meant, and what that is in the sketch, is like a little diagram showing the radius in kilometres of Berlin as it expanded alongside our means of travel. And the means of travel, as it went from electric trams to subways to cars, as they got faster, Berlin could essentially get bigger. But we weren't spending less time travelling each day. As our speed of travel got faster, the city just got bigger. It just enabled a constant journey time on average of about 30 minutes in and 30 minutes back. And there are a couple of other really interesting observations alongside that. For example, if you looked at ancient Greek cities which had walls on them, they were about 2.5 kilometres, and at 5 kilometres an hour, if you're walking, that was about half an hour in and back.
Like from one side of the city to the other type thing, or from to the extremity, like as far as you could
radius
walk.
Yeah. No, if you're going from the outside to the inside, it would take you about 30 minutes. And then there's this observation, which was even people in prison for a life sentence who've got nothing to do and nowhere to go still walk around for about an hour a day in the open. So I think it's just so interesting that even though we managed to speed up our transport over the last century or two by so much, we're still just travelling them at the same time.
It's good, isn't it?
I wonder if now a lot of people are working from home 2 or 3 days a week.
Oh, yeah.
If it's been averaged up over a week, and the fact that if you're only going in to the office 2 or 3 times, you're therefore prepared to go quite a lot longer, so it sort of averages out across the week, maybe.
I mean, that's one of the beauties, isn't it, of more working from home? You're getting all that time back. Well, I say getting it time back, it depends how you use that time, whether actually some people probably quite enjoy the commute because it's a bit of quiet time, a bit of alone time, nodding from the front of the car.
My cousin works for himself, and he used to live about 10 minutes away from his work, and his wife was like, it's just not long enough for you to decompress. You come back and you start talking to me like I work for you. She was like, you've got to move your office further away because you need that kind of half hour of chilling out so that we can have a relationship, and maybe that's a part of it.
I know, Jono, you're very good at making good use of your time on your commute. So I know normally it's with your nose in a book. Is that right?
I try as much as possible. Yeah, it's a nice reading time on a commute, or it can be, depending on what you're doing. Or if you're driving now, you might listen to audiobooks. I remember my wife had a commute where she used to do all her reading, and then she got a new job which was essentially just around the corner, and she found she just didn't read anymore and really missed it, that reading time. And of course, in principle, I suppose, if you've lost that time, you can just get up earlier and spend it reading. But nobody does that. Nobody does that. It's funny, isn't it? You appreciate it when you do it, but you don't actually make time for it yourself. But there you go.
I currently drive as part of my commute, which means I'm on the phone the whole time. I phone my sister one day, my other sister, my parents, friends, whereas Sarah commutes on the train and she can't phone anyone, so she finds she can't talk to her mum at all. Like, it's really difficult for her to find a space, whereas I talk to my parents a couple of times a week, every week. It's lovely.
Yeah, making use of that time.
Can I just say before we move on with this, because I think it's an interesting thing generally with technology, and in principle, technology made us more effective. In this case, it made us faster. But there is a bit of a history of whenever we put like these labour-saving appliances, like washing machines and dishwashers and better vacuums or whatever, actually we don't spend less time doing the chores, we just do them more often.
Yeah.
And so even though you've added more power to be able to do all these things, we haven't necessarily managed to make our lives easier. It shows too.
So I wonder, Johnny, we were talking about previously about the number of friends that you could have, your friend circle. And I wonder if with technology now, sort of Facebook, and where you can communicate with more people, that has also filled that gap a little bit more, or stretched that previous rule in a similar way to how this is stretched.
I guess that, it's a similar principle, isn't it? It is a similar principle, the use of technology to improve the efficiency of an activity, whatever that might be. And instead of you having more time from those efficiencies, you just fill that time with more of that activity.
Yeah.
The amount of WhatsApp chats you might be on, can definitely believe that.
And it's interesting. So all three of us live in and around London. I mean, London's a big place. I mean, in my view, and I think you touched on this in the sketch as well, actually, Johnny, that the hour is probably a bit more in London.
Yeah, but London is unfortunately, or at least it was when I did the sketch, a bit of an outlier of an hour and a half each day.
I mean, I'd say when I leave the house, if I've got something going on somewhere else in London, it's in my mind, it's basically an hour there and an hour back.
Yeah. When was this
Door-to-door.
research based on, Johnny? Because it feels that it's like half an hour is the ideal commute time, but a lot of people are much more like 45 minutes to an hour each way.
Or is that just because what's what we know in London? I'm sure other huge metropoli around the world have similar findings as well, that maybe it goes up a little bit. But I reckon on the whole that the hour or half hour there, half hour back is about right.
Well, it was based on Berlin, but yeah.
I hate commuting. I really don't like it.
I just had to get that in.
I've managed to, for a long period of my life, I basically didn't commute. I managed to get my work within 5 minutes walk, and I used to love that. Like, my record was 45 seconds to work, I think, once.
What?
And that was just amazing. Not in the same building. But it does mean I get to speak to my family, which is really nice. But commuting, it's a struggle.
Until next week, stay well, go well. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Ben. Thanks for driving us, mate. All music on this podcast series is sourced from the very talented Frank Cinelli. And you can find loads more tracks at frankcinelli.com.